I screwed up this week. First, it was trying to finish a bunch of anime by a certain deadline to make my Fantasy Crash Out video. Then when I realized that wasn't going to happen because I had some work deadlines coming up and I had to finish a few jobs by a certain timeline, I said, maybe I'll just switch to a popular show that was coming out this season and see if I could talk about that. And by the end of it, I was scrambling to put together a video that I didn't care about, and I had this moment of realization where I just said, what in the fuck am I doing? But before we get into all that, hello and welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Big Celery Man, and this week I just want to make a more candid type of video where I talk to you guys about what happened this week, why I kinda crashed out, and what I'm planning on making in the future as far as my content goes. I'll be playing a little bit of Total War Warhammer on the screen to entertain your eyeballs, and I just want to point out real quick that it is insane that I need basically a late game army, like a Doomstack, to do Balthazar Gelt's first quest line in the game because the fight is too hard and he's so impressively bad. But that's details for a later video, and I'll talk about that later in this video. But first off, what happened this week? If you had a bird's eye view of my life, then you would never guess how important it is for me to schedule things because I look like an absolute wreck of a human being as far as, my house is not especially well put together. I'm not necessarily that great at cleaning stuff up, but mentally I need to have a schedule of what I am planning on doing at any given moment for any given thing. Spontaneous plans are like the absolute death of me. I just need to have an idea of what's going on, and for my content I need to have an idea of the video that I'm planning on making. Most of the time I have it like 3 days in advance, and I will just spend those days ruminating on the concept, thinking about things that would be interesting to talk about. If I come up with specific bits, maybe I'll jot them down because I improvise my videos. You can tell because they're not that well put together, but I'm thinking about them days in advance. I have a concept going into the recording booth. And this week, I had a concept that I was trying to chase after, and I just realized 2 days before, I needed to make my video that I was never going to hit it. So I started watching Zenshu on a wing and a prayer, hoping that I would have this moment of realization of yes, this is the video that I want to make. This would be interesting for people to watch. This would be something that I feel like I could talk about in depth. And halfway through the season, I realized I didn't have anything to talk about. I wasn't going to be able to make that interesting of a video, and I was gonna just scramble for the last 6 episodes hoping that something would hit me while I was watching it and I would be able to make a decent video this week. And I had to stop myself because at no point on this entire channel in the history of all my videos have I made a video that I just didn't really feel inspired to make in some way, shape, or form. There are anime that I've talked about that I didn't care that much about, but it's always in the same video as something that I really want to talk about, that I feel like I can provide some sort of interesting perspective on, or I can make funny in some way, and I just didn't have that going into this. And I don't want to make stuff that I just don't care about, because if I don't care about it, you guys definitely won't care about it. And all this only came about because I'm holding myself to a schedule that doesn't even necessarily exist. I'm trying to keep myself doing weekly anime videos because I've had some luck doing anime videos in the past, and I watch a ton of anime, and so that's the type of content that I do want to make, but fuck. But this channel has never been just about anime. It's never been specifically about the anime that's supposed to bring people here. If it was, then I would have made my name something having to do with anime. I would have helped myself with search engine optimization instead of just having my channel name be some obscure reference to a chemistry textbook I read in high school. It's not just about anime. It's supposed to be me. It's supposed to be me as an entertainer making whatever I do interesting to an audience. I'm not supposed to be captured into one specific type of content, but I have been because I made that Reincarnated as a Sword video and it did super well, and I've been chasing that high ever since. If anything, I've been lucky that so far I've been inspired to make something halfway decent every week, where it's just something about anime for the past I want to say it's been 3 months or something like that since I had a break in my upload schedule. And the schedule isn't really the problem. I know, clickbait, insane for my channel. But it's not the schedule that's the issue, because I do need Algorithm Daddy to witness me. It's the idea that I need to make something about a specific anime every week. That's not necessary. I need to make other types of content sometimes if I'm going to crash out like this again. I think I'm actually going to try to make a backlog of videos of just random things to fill weeks that I couldn't make a decent video. I had an idea of ranking every character from Shangri-La Frontier by their propensity for nudity. That'd be a decent video. And I could do a couple different videos like that are just goofy, and it doesn't need to be some look into an anime that I felt particularly inspired by or inspired to make fun of. My God, I need to change my diet. But the content on my channel is not actually going to change. It has always, been the same. I've always been making gaming videos, whether or not anybody actually watches them. I've always been doing that type of thing. It's only consistently been anime for the past month, maybe 2 months, that I've been banging out one every single week. I'm just going to pull back on that a little bit mentally because I ended up, in a bad position this week because I was so obsessed with trying to make sure that I stayed consistent. And I have 1,000 subs. I don't need to be that worried about being consistent. I can take a few chances, I think. So what can you expect from the channel going forward? The first answer is somewhat anticlimactically, anime content. Of course, because that's how I spend the majority of my time. Of course, that's going to be reflected in my content. I'm still planning on keeping up with binging last season as the regular series on the channel. I have been planning my follow-up to binging past season. I'm not expecting it to do as well, obviously, because if I expected another 50k video... Oh, God, I'm so good at talking, you have no fucking idea. If the follow-up does as well as the first video did, then I'm going to have to seriously reconsider how important it is to talk about anime that are somewhat recently in people's memory. But the anime that I'm going to talk about is Nora, Rise of the Yokai Clan. I've been watching it recently. It is a certifiable banger, I can assure you that. But don't watch it, don't make my video. Oh, watch it before the video. I don't know if I just don't watch my video, okay? Watch my fucking video. I've also been sitting on a solid Naruto video forever. I've had the idea in mind since a long time ago. It's a solid idea. It's something that I really want to talk about. I just haven't gotten around to making it, so that is something you can also expect in the semi-near future. And lastly, and this will only come as a shock to some of you, I am definitely going to be making Total War Warhammer videos. Some of you may remember, I don't even remember what video it was in, to be honest, but at some point, I think it was the Grieving Souls video. I talked about the fact that I couldn't make Warhammer content because I compare myself to other YouTubers and they're just so much better than I am in so many ways, and there's no way that I could make something that's, as good as what they make. But here's the thing. I'm kind of a little wacky. I think that if you're going to play a game, you should play it from the beginning. And for me, that was buying all 3 Total War Warhammers and starting with the first game, which is pretty much universally looked down upon, and for good reason. And I have been searching for information on, YouTube, on forums, everywhere, just trying to find people talking about Total War Warhammer 1 so I can confirm that I am not actually completely insane in assuming that Balthazar Gelt was going to be one of the best dudes ever because he is so good in the other games, and he is just completely fucking worthless in the first game, whether you start with him or whether you get him with Karl Franz's campaign, who is also dog shit. I just have a lot of things to say at this point about Total War Warhammer 1 in particular, and I think that would be a good jumping off point, because nobody makes content about it. It was only out for a year before the sequel was released, and pretty much everybody agrees the sequel is like an S-tier game, whereas I think I'm literally quoting Legend of Total War. I'm pretty sure he had the first game as like a B-tier game, and then the follow-up was S-tier. First game has a lot of problems with it. I want to talk about them, and I've also had some decent ideas just for content about the first game that I think would be good and fun and interesting. and I've almost gotten to 300 hours in the game at this point. I thought it was just going to be a time sink that I was never going to turn into content, but if you know the YouTuber mindset, if you fucking sink that much time into something, you goddamn better turn it into content. And I've bought a few other games over the past year with the explicit intent of turning them into content as well that I just never got around to because I was so focused on anime content. Again, I love making that. I'm just going to diversify a little bit so I don't screw myself over on accident and, desperately trying to make a video that nobody wants to watch. Kind of like this one. But this one wasn't desperate. This was very, haphazardly thrown together. I put in no effort. Don't respect me. Anyway, that's it for this week's video. If you enjoyed a more candid video like this, make sure you let me know because I am not going to opt into making this type of content often. And if anything, I actively try to avoid it because I want the stuff that I release on my channel to be, more, we'll just say better put together. I don't really like making candid videos that much. But if you guys like them, I'll rethink all of my ideals. I'll change myself for you. I love you so much. Next week is the Winter 2025 Fantasy Crash Out, and I'll see you guys then.